By now, Sam Darnold understands the deal. When he stands outside USC's locker room each week to face reporters, he can sense what people will be saying about him on the radio, the cable sports networks and the internet all week. This is no longer last season, when Darnold was the freshman savior who never had an off game. There have been games when he has struggled. There have been games when USC has struggled. And he knows some people will blame him. When Darnold stood outside USC's locker room Saturday after a win over Utah, he was smiling. Had been credited with 3 fumbles, but had erased the pain of that with a furious second-half comeback. Had also erased at least 2 weeks of stress and frustration. After the second half there was a lot of relief, Darnold said. Just knowing that we could find a rhythm. And that we were back to playing the ball that we're used to. For the first time since week 2 against Stanford, Darnold looked as he did a season ago. If USC is to defeat Notre Dame on Saturday, he understands that he will probably have to play that way for the entire game. Many teammates say they haven't detected a change in Darnold from last season's heady run to this season of weighty expectations. But those who live with him have sensed how the responsibility has affected him. He does a really good job of hiding it, said tight end Tyler Petit, one of Darnold's roommates in an off-campus apartment. But this is as his friend off the field. I think a lot of people put a ton of pressure on Sam. And I mean it's well deserved after the season that he had last year. But I think some people kind of have unrealistic expectations. And I don't think he'll tell you that. He's still a human being. He's still a 20-year-old guy that's playing football. I mean, it's gonna happen sometimes. He's gonna make mistakes. Our team's gonna make mistakes. But what shows really how good he is how he responds to that. Those mistakes have had more mundane origins. He has committed too many turnovers. And often, defenses have corralled him in the pocket to prevent his creative playmaking when he scrambles. Against Utah, he was more dynamic, escaping again to extend plays. Offensive coordinator Teamm Martin said Darnold recognized heavy man-to-man coverage and exploited it with his legs. We need that, Martin said. We need people to have to account for him. D-lineman deficient Scythe Trojans practiced Tuesday with only one regular contributor at defensive tackle as they weather a wave of injuries and defections. Brandon Pilley, a freshman from Alaska who decided to forego his redshirt season and play in a game 2 weeks ago, is the only healthy, active regular at the position. Josh Fatu, the starter, was in a multi-car accident, Coach Clay Helton said Tuesday, and Fatu is day-to-day in USC's concussion protocol. And Kenny Bigelow Jr., a 5-star recruit who had 2 knee surgeries while at USC, decided to end his playing career. Bigelow did not appear with USC last week against Utah, a week after Pilley passed him on the depth chart in Pilley's first collegiate game. Bigelow was at practice but in a mentor role. His aspirations after football is to be a coach, so he's gonna mentor some young kids for us and be around this team in a different role, Helton said. Marlon DePolito, a freshman who had been the primary backup, underwent season-ending surgery last week. Run defense is a key in USC's game Saturday against Notre Dame. Notre Dame ranks 3rd in the country in yards per rush at 6.9. USC's defense ranks 65th at 4.12 yards per carry. Porter Gustin is examined. Outside linebacker Porter Gustin underwent an MRI exam and a CT scan to examine his fractured big toe and torn biceps. Helton said the doctors would evaluate whether Gustin can play against Notre Dame. He wants to play so bad, Helton said. He's chomping at the bit, but obviously it's going to be a doctor's decision at the end of the day to see where the healing process is. Gustin played against Texas 3 days after having 2 screws inserted into his toe. He lasted a half but was pulled after tearing his biceps and after a halftime x-ray showed the screws had shifted. He has sat out USC's last 4 games. Quick Hits left tackle Toa Lobodon was held from practice because of a pectoral sprain. Running back Stephen Carr remained out because of a foot injury. Right tackle Chuma Edoga returned from an ankle sprain. Caption Zach.Helfand at lawtimes.com. Follow Zach Helfand on Twitter at Gelfand.